Hey guys, and welcome back to Reagan's Reading Corner. Today I will be reading Olivia and the Best Teacher Ever. This book is adapted by Aloud Oliver, and it's based on the screenplay Teacher of the Year. Good morning, class, said Mrs. Hoggenmuller. I'd like to welcome someone who is joining us for the day. Everyone looked up, eager to meet their mystery guest. This is Mrs. Stern. Mrs. Hoggenmuller continued. Hello, Mrs. Stern. The kids greeted her politely. Is she a teacher? Olivia asked. No, Olivia. She's coming to watch our class. Mrs. Hoggenmuller explained. I'm picking the best teacher to win the city's Teacher of the Year award. Mrs. Stern added seriously, writing something down on her clipboard. Everyone thought Mrs. Hoggenmuller deserved to win. Mrs. Hoggenmuller, what does the Teacher of the Year get? Daisy asked. Their picture on the side of every school bus in town, Mrs. Hoggenmuller said cheerfully. I've always dreamed of being on a school bus. Seeing her teacher so excited gave Olivia an idea. She turned to Francine. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure Mrs. Hoggenmuller wins that award. Let's get started, class, Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. Ni hao, children. Ni hao, Mrs. Hoggenmuller, the class replied. Very good. I see you remember how to say hello in Mandarin Chinese. Mrs. Stern was very impressed. She smiled as she wrote something on her clipboard. Olivia was pleased. Mrs. Hoggenmuller is definitely going to win, she whispered to Francine. Next, Mrs. Hoggenmuller assigned the morning chores. It was Olivia's and Daisy's turn to clean the frog terrarium. No problem, Mrs. Hoggenmuller, Olivia told her teacher politely. Then she turned to Daisy. Whatever it takes to help Mrs. Hoggenmuller win Teacher of the Year. Olivia noticed Mrs. Stern writing on her clipboard. Olivia gave her a nice big smile before heading towards the terrarium. Daisy took the lid off the terrarium. I'll hold Hopper and you clean, she told Olivia. But Olivia didn't think that was fair. She wanted to hold Hopper. I'm holding that frog, Daisy protested. No, I'm holding that frog, replied Olivia. Before they knew it, Hopper hopped right over their heads and out into the classroom. In fact, he was headed toward Mrs. Stern. Oh no! Look! Cried Olivia. She had to get that frog before he ruined Mrs. Hoggenmuller's chance to become Teacher of the Year. Olivia grabbed a tall princess hat, and just as Hopper was about to jump on Mrs. Stern's head, Olivia lunged forward and trapped Hopper inside it. Startled, Mrs. Stern turned to find Olivia standing right next to her wearing the hat. Look! I'm a princess, Olivia said, striking a pose. That was close, Olivia told Daisy when she returned to the terrarium. You hold Hopper, I'll clean. When Olivia was almost done, Mrs. Hoggenmuller and Mrs. Stern came by to see how they were doing. The terrarium was almost spotless. Great terrarium cleaning, girls, Mrs. Hoggenmuller said. Very nice, indeed, agreed Mrs. Stern, writing on her clipboard. Mrs. Hoggenmuller's gonna win, Olivia told Daisy. She's going to get her face on a bus. Olivia imagined what it would be like to have her face on something. I wonder, my face on a bus would be nice. Or on a plane, even better. Whoa! My face on Mount Rushmore? That's the best yet. The sound of Mrs. Hoggenmuller's voice pulled Olivia from her daydream. It's time for puppet story time, her teacher said. The class loved puppet story time, and Mrs. Hoggenmuller was telling their favorite story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Everyone was enjoying it. Well, everyone except Mrs. Stern, who let out a big yawn as her head began to droop. Olivia was worried. Mrs. Stern must be really bored, she whispered to Francine. Then Olivia had an idea. Mrs. Hoggenmuller, she cried out, your story is so exciting. Can I play the bears? Why not, said Mrs. Hoggenmuller. Olivia pretended to be the bears as loudly as she could. Instead of just telling the story, she sang a very loud song and accompanied herself with a toy drum. Her song was so loud, even Mrs. Stern had to stay awake. Next, it was time for crafts. Everyone loved crafts, especially Olivia. "Where's the red paint?" Olivia asked Francine. "Daisy is using it," Francine replied. Olivia looked over and saw Daisy struggling to get the paint out of the tube. One more squeeze, and the red paint would fly through the air and splatter all over Mrs. Stern's clothes. Olivia thought fast. She grabbed a piece of paper and ran to catch Daisy's paint with it, but she accidentally tripped and smashed right into Mrs. Stern. Olivia stopped the red paint from splattering on to Mrs. Stern, but she also made her bump into the frog terrarium, tipping off the lid. Hopper jumped out right onto Mrs. Stern's head. Mrs. Stern wasn't used to having a frog on her head. She screamed and ran around the classroom trying to get Hopper off. Finally, she landed in a chair and Hopper hopped off. The entire class thought this was hilarious, but Mrs. Stern did not. "You can forget about being Teacher of the Year," she told Mrs. Hagenmuller. "There's no learning going on in here, just shenanigans." With that, Mrs. Stern left their classroom. "Oh well," said Mrs. Hagenmuller sadly. "There's always next year." "Okay, it's time for free play outside." Mrs. Hagenmuller tried to put on a brave face, but Olivia could see she was upset. "It's not fair," Olivia told Francine outside. "Mrs. Hagenmuller is the best teacher." "Remember when she taught us the planets by dressing up as them?" Francine said. "And when she taught us addition and subtraction using apples?" Harold added. "The planet Neptune is blue," began Francine. "And 1 + 1 is 2, finished Harold. "That rhymes just like a song," Olivia cried out. Then she had the greatest idea ever. "Gather round, everyone," Olivia called to her classmates. "We're going to put on a show to let Mrs. Hagenmuller know that to us, she's the best teacher ever." "Class, it's time to come in," Mrs. Hagenmuller called as she stepped outside, but she was surprised to find her class standing in a striking formation. And even more so when they began to sing about all the things that she had taught them. How to count to 10 in Mandarin and French, how to construct a sentence, even the fact that camels have humps. When they were done singing, a school bus pulled up with a picture of Mrs. Hagenmuller hanging on the side. "Thank you, Olivia," said Mrs. Hagenmuller. "Thank you, everybody. Let's go for a ride." "Congrats, Mrs. Hagenmuller, you're Teacher of the Year," Olivia announced. That night, Olivia told her mother about the things she had learned from Mrs. Hagenmuller. "Did you know that there are 365 days in a year and flies taste of their feet?" Olivia asked. "That's incredible, dear," her mother said. "Do you know how many minutes until bedtime?" 0, Olivia replied, fighting off a big yawn. "That's exactly right," her mom said. "Good night, Olivia." I hope you guys enjoyed Olivia and the Best Teacher Ever. I know I did because I know my school starts, and I know some people have already started school. So have a great school year, guys. And I really hope you enjoyed reading this book with me. Make sure to catch me every Tuesday. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.